Most people will never get rich, and it has nothing to do with intelligence, talent, or even effort. In fact, the harder they try, the more stuck they become. Why? Because they're fighting the wrong enemy. You've been told to work harder, save more, cut the coffee, build a resume. But here's the truth. The game is rigged from the inside. 97% of people live their whole lives following a mental script they never chose. A paradigm installed before they could even speak. It controls your income, your confidence, your results. And unless you rewrite that subconscious script, no strategy will ever set you free. But the 3% who break through, they don't hustle harder, they wake up. They change the story in their head. And with that, they change everything. There's a silent tragedy unfolding every single day, and it hides behind ordinary lives. 97% of people will never become rich. Not because they're not trying, not because they lack potential, but because they're playing a game they were programmed to lose before they even knew they were playing. And the worst part, they think they're making their own choices. Imagine being born into a cage with invisible bars. You don't see them, you don't feel them, but every time you try to stretch beyond your limits, something pulls you back. That something is your paradigm, an inherited mental blueprint running on autopilot, installed through repetition, reinforced by environment, accepted without question. Your paradigm decides how much money you'll make, how much risk you'll take, and how much success you'll allow yourself to feel comfortable with. It's not logic, it's emotion, deep-seated beliefs rooted in your subconscious. Most people don't even know this system exists. They just keep repeating patterns, then blame the economy, bad luck, or themselves. But the real enemy is the programming itself. And that's what makes this so cruel. The trap is self-sustaining. The system convinces you that it doesn't exist, and then it punishes you every time you try to escape it. Try to save money, you self-sabotage. Try to start a business, you procrastinate. Try to change your life, you panic. And all of this happens under the radar. It feels like you, but it's not. It's a mental virus passed down like a family heirloom. So most people live in this hypnotic loop. Wake up, work, worry, sleep, repeat. They crave wealth, but their identity is wired for limitation. They want change, but their nervous system rejects the unfamiliar. They mistake fear for truth, discomfort for danger. And this, right here, is the real tragedy. They never wake up. Not because they can't, but because they don't even know they're asleep. A paradigm isn't just a belief. It's a silent architecture of the mind. A hidden framework that governs how you think, act, and feel without asking for permission. It's like an invisible hand guiding your choices, shaping your destiny while you assume you're in control. But you're not. You're following a script written long before you knew how to question it. This script lives in your subconscious, below awareness, but above everything you do. It whispers what's possible, what's realistic, what's safe. It sets the thermostat of your life. Even if you consciously desire more, your paradigm pulls you back to your comfort zone. That's why it doesn't matter how smart or ambitious you are. If the code inside you is corrupted, your reality will be too. Think about it. Two people get the same opportunity. One thrives, the other freezes. Why? Same event, different paradigms. One sees growth, the other sees threat. One feels worthy, the other feels fear. This is the difference that separates the 3% from the 97%. Not intelligence, not luck, programming, installed through childhood, culture, trauma, repetition, and left unquestioned for decades. And this programming doesn't respond to information, it responds to identity. You can study success, attend seminars, chant affirmations for hours, but if your inner identity says, "I'm not good enough," your actions will sabotage your intentions. Always. That's why people get stuck. Not because they're incapable, but because they're loyal to an outdated self-image they didn't even choose. Bob Proctor knew this better than anyone. He said, "You can't outperform your paradigm. You can fake it for a while, force change with willpower, but eventually you'll snap back, because the subconscious always wins. Until you reprogram that paradigm, emotionally, repeatedly, decisively, you're not really living your life. You're living the one someone else designed for you." But here's the twist. Once you become aware of the paradigm, it loses power. You start to see the patterns, the autopilot reactions, the inherited fears, and then something cracks. Awareness is the beginning of freedom. It won't fix everything overnight, but it gives you a choice. And for the first time, maybe ever, you're not sleepwalking through your own destiny. Before you could speak, you were absorbing, watching, mimicking. The world around you became your instruction manual for how life works. Your parents' stress became your financial thermostat. Their fears became your internal limits. Society didn't have to convince you. It just repeated itself until you believed. And those beliefs became your reality. You didn't choose your fears. You inherited them. You didn't choose your doubts. They were passed down. Every comment about people like us, every warning about risk, every sigh about bills, they stacked up inside you. And now, as an adult, you call it personality. But it's not. It's programming. And it's not even yours. This is the root of the trap. Most people try to fix their lives without questioning the lens they're seeing through. They chase goals, but their self-image says, "You don't deserve that." So they sabotage, delay, quit, and then they call it fate. But fate is just programming you haven't challenged yet. Until you do, you're living someone else's story, not yours. Your subconscious doesn't care what's true. It cares what's familiar. If you grew up around scarcity, chaos, or emotional suppression, that becomes your baseline. Even if it's painful, it feels safe. That's why people unconsciously recreate their past, even when it hurts. They return to toxic jobs, toxic habits, toxic mindsets, not out of weakness, but out of wiring. Bob Proctor called this the self-image trap. You can only earn, achieve, or experience what your inner blueprint allows. Try to go beyond it, and you'll self-destruct or self-limit. Not because you want to fail, but because success feels unfamiliar, and the subconscious resists anything unfamiliar. Until you redefine your identity, you're not just fighting obstacles. You're fighting yourself. But here's the hope. You can change the blueprint. You can break the cycle. But not by force, by awareness. You start to notice the voice in your head isn't yours. That your limitations were installed, not born. And in that moment of realization, a door opens. Most ignore it. But the ones who walk through, they start living a life that finally feels like theirs. Most people think they just need to work harder, hustle more, sleep less, grind until something changes. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Willpower is not enough. You can fight against your paradigm with all your energy and still lose. Because your subconscious is running the show 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, while your willpower only shows up for a few hours. Think of it like swimming against a current. You can push and strain and scream, but if the current is stronger than you, you'll always end up back where you started. That current, it's your paradigm. It decides what feels normal, what feels possible. And even if your conscious mind wants success, your subconscious will pull you back to your default, unless you rewire it. That's why some people burn out without ever breaking through. They set goals, make vision boards, follow routines, but underneath, they still believe they're not good enough, not smart enough, not lucky enough. And that belief quietly sabotages their progress, not with drama, but with delay, distraction, and doubt. It's death by hesitation. Willpower is like a flashlight. It can guide you, but it can't rewire the room. Paradigm is the wiring itself. It determines where the power flows, what switches work, what lights turn on. If you don't change the wiring, you're just rearranging shadows. You might feel busy, even productive, but your results won't reflect your effort. They'll reflect your programming. Bob Proctor knew this. That's why he didn't focus on doing more. He focused on thinking differently. Because once the paradigm shifts, actions become effortless. Results come faster. Success stops feeling like an uphill battle and starts feeling natural. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Internally. At the root. So if you've been stuck, tired, confused, it's not because you're broken. It's because you've been using a tool, willpower, to fight an enemy, paradigm, it was never designed to defeat. The answer isn't more force. It's more awareness, more precision, and the courage to challenge everything you've been taught to believe about who you are. Every time you say, "I'm lazy," you reinforce a lie. You're not lazy, you're in conflict. A war between your conscious goals and your subconscious identity. You want success. You want discipline. But your paradigm, the mental script installed long ago, doesn't believe it's safe. So it resists. Not with force, but with subtle sabotage, procrastination, doubt, distraction, fatigue. Willpower alone can't win this war. Because willpower is conscious. Temporary. It's like using a flashlight to fight shadows in a cave. It only works while the battery lasts. That's why people start strong and crash hard. They blame themselves, but the real enemy isn't weakness, it's unconscious programming. You're not broken. You're just battling a belief system that doesn't match your vision yet. Bob Proctor said it best. You can't outperform your self-image. If your paradigm says you're average, no amount of hustle will create lasting change. You might get a temporary win, but eventually, you'll snap back like a rubber band. That's why people lose weight and regain it. Build wealth and lose it. Achieve goals and sabotage them. The paradigm always pulls you back to normal. This is why personal growth feels like swimming upstream. You're not just building new habits, you're breaking old identities. The you who procrastinates. The you who doubts. The you who settles. And to break that pattern, you have to go deeper than motivation. You have to reprogram the operating system itself through awareness, repetition, and identity shifts. Most people try to fix results without fixing roots. They download productivity apps, follow routines, chase hacks, but the old self keeps running the show. Real transformation begins when you stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "Who am I being?" Because action flows from identity, and identity is shaped by belief. If you don't shift that, nothing sticks. So next time you feel stuck, pause. Don't shame yourself. Study yourself. Ask, what belief is running this behavior? Where did I learn it? And does it serve who I want to become? That's where real freedom starts. Not in pushing harder, but in realigning who you are with where you want to go. The moment you do that, your paradigm starts to crack. You can't escape a paradigm. You have to replace it, and that starts with awareness. You have to observe the old script, the limiting beliefs, the emotional triggers, the automatic thoughts, without judgment. Just watch. Become the witness. Because the moment you see the pattern, you're no longer blindly controlled by it. Next comes decision. Not a casual, "I should change," but a full-body decision. The kind that creates tension. The kind that says, "I will no longer accept this version of myself." Paradigms are emotional, so the shift must be emotional too. You need a moment of clarity, of intensity, of no turning back. That's when the mind becomes fertile for new programming. Then comes repetition. Your new beliefs must be repeated daily, until they override the old ones. Through affirmations, through visualization, through identity-based habits. You're not just saying, "I want to be rich." You're saying, "I am the kind of person who creates wealth." That shift from desire to identity is where real reprogramming begins. And don't just repeat empty words. Feel them, visualize them, embody them. Create rituals around your new paradigm, morning routines, emotional anchors, environmental cues. Your subconscious speaks in emotion and image, not logic. So use that language. Make the new identity visceral. Make it louder than the past. Surround yourself with new inputs. Books that stretch your mind. Voices that speak your future. People who reflect the next level of you, not the current one. Paradigm shift is not just internal, it's environmental. You can't plant new seeds in toxic soil. So protect your focus. Curate your world. Upgrade your standards. Lastly, patience. Paradigms don't shift overnight. But every small repetition, every new choice, every rewired reaction is a crack in the old system. A signal to the mind, this is who I am now. And one day, without realizing, you wake up thinking differently. Choosing differently. Being differently. That's when the old paradigm dies. And the new life begins. The top 3% didn't stumble into wealth. They didn't win the lottery or pray for miracles. They woke up. They saw what most never see, the invisible script running their lives. The beliefs, the patterns, the silent emotional loops. They realized the prison wasn't the economy or politics or luck. It was their own subconscious self-image. They stared into the mirror and refused to look away. They faced the brutal truth. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. So they changed at the core. Not just habits, but identity. They didn't wait for success to validate them. They validated themselves first, and reality followed like a shadow. While 97% chase tactics, the 3% master inner alignment. They move from intention, speak from clarity, act with unshakable vision. Their discipline isn't forced, it's rooted in purpose. They don't need external motivation because their internal compass is already calibrated. They don't hustle, they embody. Most people wait for signs. The 3% become one. They stop arguing for their limitations, stop outsourcing their power, stop reacting to a world designed to reward the asleep. Instead, they rewire their nervous system for abundance. They normalize success, make peace with discomfort, and train their minds like warriors. The difference isn't talent or luck, it's awareness. The 3% realized that their reality was a reflection of their paradigm, and they rewrote it. Repetition, decision, emotional conviction. That's how they hacked the loop. They didn't hope for a better life. They installed one, thought by thought, identity by identity. Because in the end, the door was never locked. The map was always within. Most just never had the courage to look. But those who did, they crossed the threshold, left average behind, and never looked back. Not by accident, not by fate, but by choice. The same one that's now standing in front of you. Now you know, it was never just about hard work, or talent, or finding the right tactic. It was always the paradigm, the invisible code that shaped your every move. And once you see it, you can't pretend you didn't. You're standing at the edge of a choice. Go back to sleep or finally wake up. Most people don't choose. They drift. They repeat yesterday and call it normal. They chase distractions, decorate their cage, and call it happiness. But deep inside, there's a quiet ache, the whisper of a self that never got to live. A life unlived is the heaviest regret, and most will carry it to the grave. But what if you didn't? What if you stopped explaining your limits and started breaking them? What if you stopped asking for permission and started creating new rules? Not out of ego, but out of truth. The truth that you were never average, just conditioned to feel that way. This isn't about motivation. That fades. This is about identity, transformation, liberation. You don't need more how-to tips. You need a paradigm shift, a new standard, a decision so deep it rewires your nervous system. Because until that shift happens, nothing else will. So what now? You already know. The version of you who's been hiding, waiting, is watching. Will you go back to comfort or forward into growth? Will you numb the voice again or finally answer it? Because this video isn't just information. It's a mirror, and the reflection is yours. The door is open. The prison was never locked. You were always holding the key, your awareness. Now it's in your hands, and you have two options. Use it, or keep wondering what could have been. The 3% choose. The rest? They just survive. So now the question is, what are you going to do with this? Will you keep scrolling, keep repeating the same thoughts, the same routines, hoping that maybe one day things will just click? Or will you finally decide? Decide to take control of what runs your mind when no one's watching? Because here's the brutal truth. Nothing changes until you change who you are on a subconscious level. And most people never get rich, not because they're lazy or dumb, but because they're hypnotized by a life they didn't consciously design. You've been conditioned to chase money. But wealth doesn't come from chasing, it comes from alignment. You attract prosperity when your identity matches the life you desire. And right now there's a mismatch, a conflict between what you want and what your paradigm says you deserve. Are you willing to confront that? To sit with the discomfort of rewiring your mind? To break your own rules, the ones you didn't even know were running you? Because this is where everything begins. Not with another book or video or course, but with a decision. A deep, internal choice to stop living like the 97% and become the 3%. What would change if you stopped decorating your cage and started looking for the key? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what resonated. Tell me what hit. And most importantly, tell yourself the truth about what you've been avoiding. If this made you feel something, don't let it fade. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stay close. Because this is just the beginning. And I promise you, there's a lot more coming to help you reclaim your mind and rebuild your life.